This is United for Biodiversity, the Alliance podcast, a platform that unites global voices in a call to action to protect our planet's rich biodiversity. Join us for critical insights and let's stand united for biodiversity.
Welcome to this week's episode of United for Biodiversity, the Alliance podcast. I am your host, Kiana Wilberg, and today we place the spotlight on the important role of indigenous communities in the fight to protect biodiversity. We're honored to have with us to engage in this discussion the chairman of the National Tushaus Council, Mr. Derick John. Mr. Derick John, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you also, Ms. Kiano.
All right. So I want to jump straight into our questions. Now, Mr. John, you have been one of the key advocates for the message that pertains to the fight for biodiversity, protecting same, and ensuring that indigenous communities are involved in this process. But tell us a little bit about the community that you hail from and what are some of the things that you do in terms of leading conservation efforts in your community?
Okay, so that's a really good question, and thank you so much for it. So I'm the Tushao for Maracabay village. That's the only Amerindian village in region number 5. It's situated about 95 miles up the Maikoni River. So it's more of a indigenous, Arawak indigenous community.
Interesting.
And so what we do is that we recognize the importance of biodiversity for indigenous people, and we teach that importance and how entwined indigenous people and nature is part of our life, and so we teach it from a very early age to our young people, so that they can able to understand the importance of protecting it and using it in a very sustainable way. And so having that knowledge from that very early age, it's very important. So as they grow up, they will see nature as that important element that they need to respect.
So from a very young age, communities, the message within there is that you have to be one with nature, you have to respect nature.
Right.
So that's part of the upbringing, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Now, apart from that message, what are some of the ways in which you have observed indigenous communities have been involved in biodiversity conservation over the years?
So one of the important thing we must recognize is Guyana is a very unique country. Our indigenous people occupy about 10% of the total population, but we hold about over 16% of Guyana total land mass. And that's very important for us because when you talk about biodiversity, you have to talk about our land. And so indigenous communities right across Guyana have recognized the importance of their land because it's from their land they earn, from their land they have food, they have their medicine, they gather materials to make their homes, to do craft work. And so we have seen where indigenous people across Guyana have really recognized that and they have contributed in a very significant to sustainable using it from generation to generation.
Absolutely. Now, the government in particular has played a leading role in ensuring that all stakeholders, whether locally, regionally, or internationally, play a role in protecting Guyana's biodiversity, and the strategy leading that entire effort has been the low carbon development strategy. Tell us a bit about the role of indigenous communities and how they have been interlinked in that document.
So one of the good things that we have to appreciate, it's the recognition of the rights of indigenous people.
Mm-hmm.
And the government of Guyana have always involved indigenous people in major decision making.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, that process where you go out there and to consult with communities, to hear their views, have their recommendations taken on board is very important. And so, from a national perspective, um, we have this roundtable discussion with all stakeholders, whether government, NGOs, indigenous people. Our space is always there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's very unique with Guyana. And because of that respect and that good working relationship, Guyana is being recognized as one of the leading country um, as it relates to biodiversity conservation and protecting our natural resources and so on.
So you would say the voice of indigenous communities, it's captured in this document, it's representative, there's complete and total respect for the role of indigenous communities.
Absolutely, Kiana. Absolutely.
Indeed. Now, I want to take you to the vision now for where we see the government's role in utilizing or tapping the experience, the knowledge of indigenous communities in their strategies for biodiversity protection. Now, what's one of the most important lessons that you have learned about living sustainably and more so leveraging off of your experiences from the government's initiatives? What you've learned about that?
So traditional knowledge is very important to us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a knowledge that has passed down from generation to generation, even today. And that's we continue to pass down to younger generation. And so looking at what Guyana have done as a country, we all know that under the stewardship of starting from President Barjack Diop and then now to President Mohamed Infantali,
Mm-hmm.
the leading role that they play in terms of promoting sustainable use of our forest, but not only sustainable, but also garnering financial support so that you can able to do so many things as it relates to protecting our biodiversity. We looked at that LCDS document started from 2009, and then now the expanded document 2030. It's when you looked at the content that is in there, it's amazing to put in value to our forests, also to integrate in fresh water, recognize that as a very valuable resources, and so many other things. And because of that good stewardship, we have seen where Guyana were able to attract international community. Like in 2009, they signed the forest agreement with Norway, and then very recently with the very big agreement with Hess Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And so those finances now that going into indigenous communities are helping us, supporting us to able to drive our initiative so that we can able to conserve, we can able to protect, we can able to utilize the resources more sustainable, more sustainable. And so seeing now a lot of communities are investing those resources into food security, which is very key for us.
Mm-hmm.
Some communities now invest in those resources into introducing ecotourism in their thing. And so when you put all of these together, is that there are so many benefits deriving from it, because now you're creating employment opportunities for young people and the vulnerable group, ladies and other groups in the community. So you can able to hold the people there, because in the past there was less resources and job opportunity was very scarce. But now we're seeing that trend is turning around. Now people are coming back into our communities because the more job opportunities, the more spending power is in the community,
Mm-hmm.
and that's very good. So we city government and indigenous people, the partnership that we have built, it's really benefiting indigenous communities.
Thank you, Mr. John. And finally, to wrap up, of course, there is immense buzz regarding the Global Biodiversity Alliance Summit that will take place from July 23rd to the 25th at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. Now, what message would you like to convey to the international stakeholders and regional partners who will be coming in for this particular event? What would you like to share about them, about the role of indigenous communities in the fight to protect biodiversity and how Guyana has been able to formulate a sort of model for success where this is concerned?
Being a Guyanese, I am very proud that I have lived in such a small country but have a big voice internationally. And so having the countries come into our country to see what is happening, so they can actually come and they can see the actual working relationship, but you can also see the investments the government have invested into different projects. But also, you will be able to reach with indigenous people because we're planning to have a booth down there. So
Wonderful.
our presence will be at the summit, and we will be there and we can share our experience with the international community. But I would really appreciate that these countries that come into Guyana, that they can learn from us, because I have traveled many countries, and honestly, there's a lot of indigenous people living in other countries do not have the privilege that we have in Guyana as indigenous people. And I would like for more global recognition for the rights of indigenous people, the respect for traditional knowledge. Traditional knowledge always plays a very important role
Yes, absolutely.
in biodiversity conservation. Right? We have been good stewards of our forests, and other ecosystems. We have recognized that from centuries. So my message for the summit is that recognizing the importance, you have to have the voice of indigenous people at a national level for countries. And so if we can have that, indigenous people can able to support national initiatives, and you will not have that fight, but you will be as partners. And as long as you can have that working relationship, there's so many things can happen. And Guyana is a good example of that. And that's why many people have been asking the question: How did we reach to where we are today?
Not by mistake.
It's not by mistake.
Yes, indeed.
So it's all about respect, though, and the political will.
Indeed, indeed. That really is a strong perspective for us to close on and to shout. John, I want to thank you again for participating in today's session. It was truly an experience, and I know that our audience has learned a lot too about the importance and the role that indigenous communities can play in this very important fight that Guyana intends to lead. So thank you again.
Surely appreciate it.
To our audience, thank you as well for joining us. Please be sure to follow us next week, same time, same place, as we bring you more insights that are crucial to the conversation on protecting biodiversity. I'm Kiana Wilberg. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to United for Biodiversity, the Alliance podcast. Be sure to follow us for more insightful episodes on our Spotify, LinkedIn, and Facebook accounts.